Yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware. Blood Hunter fixes just recently came out. Yeah. I still, by the way, I've got a lot of you here. For those of you that don't know, the Blood Hunter's banned at my tables, not because of a balance reason, but because of a session 0 agreement. Yeah, reason I don't allow Blood Hunter, guys, like, reason I don't allow Blood Hunter is because I have a few players at my table that are survivors of, you know, suicide attempts or have a past with cutting or self-harm. And the Blood Hunter's aesthetic, you might say that, like, well, you could reflavor it to where it's not X, Y, or Z thing. Literally all the artwork that they keep releasing for Blood Hunters has them slicing their arms open. It's not for my table. We've already talked about it. As a martial class that, like, doesn't really have any other, like, kind of, like, wiggle room in a way. I mean, sure, you can get around it, but, like, I just don't care enough to have this at the table. It doesn't really fit into the idea of what I have for my world. I've got players who have already voiced that they're just not really into the idea of this being a thing. See? Like, it's in the flavor text. She winces as she runs her blade across her palm. The steel transmuting blood and essence draws... the brand burns into the flesh, you know. So, it's got a lot of this narrative in here about self-harm. And I have several players... Well, I say several. I have a few players who... You know, we've decided this is most likely going to be a thematic that is going to be upsetting to some of them. So rather than me, I don't know, having this table or having this class that's available for someone that I don't know is going to tell a certain narrative in a sensitive way, I'd rather just, like, not deal with it and ban it. Like, I've got like 30 classes that you can play on my table. This one isn't really adding a whole lot to it to me. It's very weird that they advertise that narrative like crazy, especially after campaign 2. Yeah. The Blood Hunter just isn't going to be a thing that's going to work for my tables. It has nothing to do with, like, it has nothing to do with it from a balance side. If somebody wants to roll this up and I'm like, hey, this is going to take damage, whatever, like, that's, you know, whatever. It's this whole idea of, like, you have to, like, hurt yourself and draw your own blood in order to be powerful. That kind of glorifies self-harm. That is a thing that people at my table, and honestly myself, we're just not cool with. I'd really recommend, I don't know, if this somehow got out, because I feel like I should probably clip this and post it to where, like, everybody that comes to my channel can see, so that I stop getting asked about reviewing the Blood Hunter again, or, like, my opinion on the Blood Hunter, and yada yada yada, which, hey, don't feel bad if you ask me to review it or anything. I'm just letting you know, this is a thing that I get asked a lot. So, the reasons that I just stated are the reasons why I'm not really interested in making any more content around the Blood Hunter. It's the reason why I have it banned at my tables. I don't think it makes sense as a full class. And part of what I did with the Ranger revision was actually just... I mean, this is kind of a snarky thing to do, honestly, a little bit, right? But I was like, you could make this concept into its own, like, Ranger subclass, and I think it would fit. I don't think it needs to be a full expanded class. The thing you hate about Blood Hunter is that it's on D&D Beyond, which makes players come to the table with the expectation that they should be able to play it, correct? It's given a form of legitimacy because they did some kind of promo with them in Critical Role, and, like, how's the Ranger looking? So we'll get into this here in a second. But yes, I pulled some stuff from the, like... In a way, it's like, I don't really think that anyone's going to roll this up at my tables. It was more so me just making this because I'm like, I don't think that it needs to be a full class. I think it fits within the Ranger chassis, and it just, yeah. It doesn't, like, if we're doing a spell-less Ranger, then absolutely it fits in here. I think you could even have spells on this Ranger, and it might still fit. Hemocratic lore, you gain proficiency with alchemist supplies. Moreover, whenever you make a tools check using alchemist supplies, or an ability check to recall information about Fey Fiends or Undead, you gain a bonus to the check equal to your Wisdom modifier if you did not previously add it. Then, Dark Augmentation, when you score a critical hit with a weapon attack against a hostile creature, you gain temporary hit points equal to half the damage dealt. Crimson Right. This, by the way, is supposed to just feel pretty much like the Bloodborne, you know. Over in Bloodborne, you regenerate your hit points from constantly attacking a creature. I thought about that as, like, if something attacks you, then, like, you could possibly get your hit points back. Going into Crimson Right, so through the art of Hemocraft, you can infuse weapons with primal energy at the cost of your own vitality. As a bonus action, rather than damaging yourself, you can expend one of your hit dice to activate this right on a weapon that you're wielding. This way, you can't kill yourself with a class feature. For the next minute, the weapon deals an extra 1d8 necrotic damage on a hit. This benefit ends early if you end your turn while not holding the weapon. So, for 1 minute, we've nerfed it a little bit because it used to just be a d4 damage for an extra 1d6? Or no, wait, 1d4 is already pretty strong. And it just lasts until you finish a short or long rest. I think that the duration on that was probably too long. So I made it to where this is only going to last for a round, or for like one combat. You expend one of your hit dice, bam, you are sacrificing your own vitality. So this is like innate healing, I guess, that you are sacrificing into the weapon. This is, again, first pass at this adapted for a ranger subclass. It costing a hit dice rather than you dealing damage to yourself as a martial class opens it up to where I think that the narrative doesn't always feel so, the flexibility never really made a whole lot of sense to me, where it got like flexible elemental damage. I always felt like that should have probably been like a subclass thread, where like the scaffolding allowed them to like, pick up a certain damage type maybe, but the flexible, like, because it was flexible, right? Was it set? No, you learn the right, and then you learn extra rights as you level up, right? Right of the Flame, Right of the Storm, Right of the... Yeah. These being tied into later levels, honestly, like, Necrotic and Psychic feel, like, more on flavor than, like, Right of the Flame, Right of the Frozen, Right of the Storm. I don't know where the elemental stuff kind of kicked in. Maybe this is pulling from some ideas that happened in The Witcher. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really get why those are really there. The Crimson Right being necrotic damage, it's a little bit more consistent. It's not a bad damage time to pick up. You could open it up to where you could pick between necrotic or psychic damage, but it's extra damage on top of the weapon attack, so I think it's pretty alright. For some reason, you love classes that can accidentally mess themselves up. Something fierce. Pathfinder 1E's Kineticist deals non-lethal damage to itself, and as it does its cool stuff. Some people like that narrative, and to each their own. It's just, like I said, not all right at my tables. So, Heart and Soul. This was originally, you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened, right? Yeah, you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened at 14th level. Like, this is way late for you to be getting this. Like, way late. And Ranger gets a defensive feature at 7th level that this actually feels pretty nice on. Except we got a problem. We're starting to see a redundancy start to pop up with a lot of characters that go with, like, a Fey Ancestry kind of a build, where they get Fey Ancestry within their race, and then they go within a class that gets them saving throws on being charmed or frightened, right? So, rather than do that, I thought it might be kind of cool to try out this new idea I've got. So, when you make a saving throw against being charmed or frightened, you can roll a d6 and add the result to the saving throw. While you have temporary hit points, you can add this d6 to a strength, dexterity, or constitution saving throw you make. Doing so then reduces your temporary hit points to 0. So, this is, I think, part of what used to be Dark Augmentation right here, the second paragraph. But this makes it to where even if you go with, like, a Fey Ancestry Blood Hunter now, which, like, I mean, kind of cool, Fey Blood being, like, what infuses your like, there's a cool narrative in there. You're not going to be so redundant anymore. You're going to already have advantage, which means most of the time you're probably going to pass that check anyways. So now you can roll a d6 and add the result to the saving throw. It won't be redundant with racial traits. Don't get me wrong, Blood Hunter also isn't allowed at my table because of that narrative. Classes that do it because of, like, elemental backlash are what I consider fine. Right. So, like, overchannel. But yeah, this idea, right, of, like, it like, consumes the THP that you can get through Dark Augmentation. So, if you score a critical hit with a weapon against a creature, you gain temporary hit points equal to half the damage dealt. And then, I almost thought this could be the damage dealt, but it's going to be very, very easy for Ranger to crit later on. So I think that equal to half the damage dealt is going to be pretty okay. Brand of Castigation. So this is another one that was, I think, pulled over from the Blood Hunter. Whenever you damage a creature with your Crimson Right feature, you can choose to sear a Hemocraftic brand into it. You always know the direction of the branded creature, and each time it deals damage to you or a creature you can see within 5 feet of you, the branded creature takes psychic damage equal to your Wisdom modifier, minimum of 1 damage. Your brand lasts until you dismiss it, or you apply a brand to another creature. Your brand counts as a spell for the purposes of Dispel Magic, and the spell level is equal to half of your Ranger level, maximum of a 9th level spell. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. You're getting the aggressive feature that a ranger is usually getting in this scaffolding with, some enhancement on the tracking. I mean, having it scale up to be like basically a 9th level spell is pretty nice, but this is a pretty minimal effect here. It's the additional psychic damage that it can do that I really dig. So yeah, and it's just flat damage equal to your Wiz mod. And then Sanguine Mastery. As a bonus action, you can choose to reduce your temporary hit points to 0, which restores your hit points by an amount equal to the temporary hit points you lost. Here's the reason why this is all going to be very, very good. This is actually pretty reliable. This is also very reliable because Tireless. I made a change to Tireless. One weird thing for me was that this is a D8 plus your Wisdom modifier on a D10 class. No longer feels weird on a D8 class. There's just something about getting a D8 hit points from a class feature whenever your class is giving you a D10. Meh. No. So, Tireless is going to get you those temporary hit points. You expend a hit dice, use your action, boom, you just get these THP. So, this is going to be reliable in that the Blood Hunter has other means of getting their temporary hit points outside of just the subclass. They can be using this with Tireless to get, if they know that they're going to be making a lot of strength, constitution, or dex checks, and they want to get these THP that just give them a layer of security, boom, you can do it right up in here. Also pushing it to 9th level. Oh, and I made it a small nerf. The second paragraph. This was originally a 10th level feature, correct? 10th level optional feature? Yes. Push it down to 9th level. Ranger had a dead level here, but that was because they were getting 3rd level spells. Now that they're no longer getting 3rd level spells, they basically weren't getting anything here except for an improvement to their proficiency bonus. Gave them a feature right in there for Tireless. We can pump it down to 9th level, totally fine. The second paragraph. I made a nerf to this because it needed at least a narrative fix up here. In addition, whenever you finish a short rest, while hydrated and well-nourished, your exhaustion level, if any, is decreased by 1. I don't like that what this means right here is that you just don't need to eat, drink, or sleep anymore. This needs to be restricted to like once per long rest maybe, but like if I just say I'm going to give you the same mechanic, just please make sure that like you're hydrated and well-nourished, you can reduce your exhaustion level. Some other characters aren't really going to care about it, whatever, but like, God, I want the narrative heart to still stay there.